We're going to be updating on what's happened since you last heard about the programme. Huge amount of work that's been underway. What we're going to do, because there's a lot of people, which is fantastic, you may have questions or comments that you'd like to make on some of the things that you hear. We'd like you to put your questions and comments in the chat, please. We're going to hear from a number of people who've been involved in this programme over the last year, to be able to share the work that's been underway and decisions that have been taken and the process that's been followed. But if you could wait till the end, we will answer those questions. If there's a huge number of questions and we don't get a chance to answer all of those, we will take those away as we did last time, and the Town Deal Board will put some answers to those, and they will go on the Town Deal website. So if we don't, please don't feel that if we've run out of time, we're due to finish by 9 o'clock. If there are no further questions, we may finish earlier, but if we do run out of time, please don't think that you won't get a response to the questions that you've asked, apologies. And the other thing, just to ask, everybody's here because I'm sure you're here because you care passionately about Todmorden and what happens here and what the opportunities are that could be seized through the Todmorden Town Deal. You may not agree with everything that's discussed this evening, but I would ask in your comments and questions on chat, if you could please be respectful in the comments and questions that you ask. And as I said, hopefully we'll be able to respond to as many of those questions this evening, but if not, we will take those away. And that worked extremely well last time. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Pam Rawhurst, who I'm sure many of you know. Pam is the interim chair of the Todmorden Town Deal Board. So I'll hand over to you, Pam.
Thank you, Rona. And we're going to kick off with something that'll be very familiar to you, but some great footage of the great town that we live in. As we look at that, I just, for reference, what I'm going to do initially is just touch base on what we presented for the last meeting in January, and then take you through what we're doing now and where we hope to go in the future. So we're going to take it steady. There's a huge amount of information here. There's been an immense amount of work undertaken by the board and many people that have supported the board. So I'm going to walk you through this. And as Rona says, we'll take all the questions at the end. First thing to say is that before we actually put the bid in to the government for the 25 million that was initially allocated, we were given £500,000, huge amount of money, accelerator funding for some of the more shovel-ready projects that we could kick off in the town and get a sense of anticipation and, quite frankly, belief that now we'd move from the conversation about what we'd like into the reality of making that happen. And here's a list of that funding. Most of it you'll recognise already. Some of it isn't quite ready yet. The new bike stands in the centre of town aren't there yet, but they will be. They'll be near the park, they'll be near the market, and they'll be in the centre of the town. But I'm sure you'll recognise so much that's already gone on, from the railings to the Hippodrome. Next slide, please. Here's a few pictures just to remind you. You know, the railings were taken back to their original colour as part of the aspiration to invest in this fantastic Grade 1 listed building in our town. Cargo Dale bikes, you'll recognise, are whizzing all over the town with supplies. How they actually do it, heaven only knows. I am in awe of them, but it's a great way to take carbon out of the situation and get your deliveries at home. The Hippodrome, you'll recognise, iconic building, but we've been able, through the accelerator, to meet some of their needs to improve the external fascia of that building. And then the Wheels Park. Many of you might well have been at the opening of that with the town council. And that's a fantastic resource in the town that has come from the needs and the voices of young people. So that's the accelerators, just some examples of them. There are many more that I'm sure you'll be aware of throughout the town. Next, please. And here's some of the great publicity we've had. You know, we've got a fantastically strong communications group. You'll hear from them later. But, you know, the expertise that they bring to the table to actually get the messages of what we're doing out there, to increase people's belief that we can actually do so much more in this town, and to bring more people's attention to how fantastic this town is. Next, please. I'm just going to remind you in the next 2 slides of what you've already seen. So much of this is what's already gone on. But if any of you do visit our website, and I hope you visit it regularly to get all the updates that we put on there, you'll be reminded of these words, which is about, we're a great market town. We want to be a beacon for what market towns might be in the future. Next, please. Building on our entrepreneurial spirit and bringing more visitors to our town, which in turn helps to bring economic activities to our cafes, our hotels, our B&Bs, whoever. Those are our visions for our town. Next, please. And here's the map of the area. You don't have to squint at this because I'm going to talk to you about some of those blobs, but it's the one that we showed you in January that let you know we were really trying to get stretch from this. This wasn't about just investing in one place. It was about making sure that as far as we could, within the rules, within the delivery timeframe, which is set by government, not ourselves, within our needs to show value for money and all the other things you would expect with public funds, that we were aiming to get stretched there for as many of our citizens as we could. Next, please. Here we're going to show a list of the projects, just to remind you, that went up to government. A lot of work behind all those, all of them based on a needs assessment in the town, all of them attempting to capture the voices we heard in the 17 years of consultations that has gone on in this town. And what we tried to do was bring together as many of those grassroots projects as we could to fruition and get them into government. We weren't able to meet everybody's aspirations, and we're sorry about that. But we had 25 million to spend. And with that combination of listening and the needs assessment, these were the key projects that came together as the town improvement plan. And these are what we put into central government to say, this is what we want the money for. Next, please. However, as you know, the government came back and said, well, that's fine, but actually your allocation is now £17.5 million. And that meant we had to do some serious head scratching about how we could spend that money, still reflecting those needs and still reflecting those consultations. And before we go any further, just to say that even at 17.5 million, that's a lot of money. And not only is it the 17.5 million, but we have aspirations to pull in, and indeed believe that we have pulled in additional funding to match that of £10 million plus. So it's a lot of money. And on top of that, we're a market town of, the latest figures were about 15 altogether, million people, 1,000 people, get a grip, 15,000 people. And what we found out was that actually, per head of population, Todmorden's grant of 17.5 million puts us in the top quarter of all those towns that got that fund in the country. So it's a great opportunity for us to try and do something that is a legacy for this town and that reflects what the people of Todmorden want. Next, please. So we had to go about as a town board of representatives of this town to work out how we were going to transparently and fairly come to decisions about what was in play and what was out of play. The top priorities for us, after a lot of discussion, were these three for the town: to make sure that our town centre was absolutely vibrant and a real magnet, not only for visitors, but for our young people to be able to benefit from. That we were producing projects of the top-notch sustainability, and that they contributed to our aspirations about net zero carbon emissions, and that the next generation were actually coming forward with the skills of the future, and that we made sure we were investing in those. There are other priorities as well, but these were the three that were top for us. And it was against those priorities, and with the additional work of consultants on value for money, on were the costs of the projects that we put into the government still real, or had they gone up? Were we being as efficient with that money against those projects, because those were the ones that were going to be funded, as we might be? All that scrutiny had to go on before we had to take a view on what was in and what was not. And another of our lines of thinking was, we didn't want to salami slice this funding. We didn't want to say to people who had worked hard to get the costings for these projects, and particularly the high quality sustainability and environmentally assessed projects, we didn't want to make sure to say to them, you've only got half of what you needed, or a quarter of what you needed, or whatever. So we were determined as a town to make this as high quality as we could, meeting those top priorities, but being brave enough to actually say against those, what's in play and what's out. Next, please. And as a result of that, these are the revised projects that over the past few months, we have put forward to government as a Todmorden Town Deal Board to take forward, that can be funded within the 17.5 million, but that still reflect so many of the projects that came up from the grassroots. You will notice there are 2 projects that are not in that list. Some projects in the list, and I'll speak to those in a minute, but some projects were merged with others because it still made sense to be able to deliver the outcome, but some couldn't merge. And the 2 projects that have been dropped are the housing on Rose Street and the hotel. And the reason behind that was, for the housing, we were getting very strong indications from the Planning Inspectorate and from the Environment Agency that putting affordable homes in a floodplain was problematic. And not only was it problematic, but that it was going to potentially stop us from realising the finishing of these projects within the timescale the government's given us, which was by 2025. So because of issues around planning, around environmental concerns and the like, we had to take out the housing scheme on Rose Street. The other one was the £3 million allocated against the hotel. And because we scrutinised the finances, and because we weren't going to salami slice, it was difficult to find that £8.5 million saving. And because we had focused on those issues around inclusivity, around skills, around sustainability, and the heart of Todmorden, that is why we decided to take out the £3 million against the hotel. We now have a balanced budget on 17.5 million that has gone forward, that we're just going to talk to you about tonight and give you some ideas. Now, last night we had a face-to-face with people who came and joined us at the Hippodrome, and there were more voices of the people who were behind these projects than you'll hear tonight. It wasn't possible to get them here tonight. You'll hear some of them, but not all of them. So I'm going to talk you through some of those myself. Next, please. The first is enterprise in the heart of Todmorden. We have an ambition to have a fantastic enterprise centre that reflects our interest in local food, that reflects our interest in creativity and art, and that reflects our interest in sustainable travel. These are examples. There is no design yet. There is no business plan yet for any of these projects. That, if the government gives us a thumbs up, is what we'll be doing over the next 10 to 12 months. But that is our aspiration, to have something fantastic next to our wonderful market hall that speaks to the future and the interests of Todmorden. Next, please. This is an aerial shot you'll recognise again. And what I'm drawing to attention here, and Andrew Kim from Thingamajig Theatre would speak to this, is to make sure that the festivals and the wonderful creativity that we bring to our town centres has an appropriate can we go back, please? Has an appropriate place to display their wares. So we are investing in an event space that can hold up to 2,000 people in the heart of Todmorden, in the Rose Street area. Whilst at the same time in other areas of Rose Street, we're investing in some serious green infrastructure that will inspire people to see how wonderful, building on the work of Pollination Street, but going beyond. The other thing that we're doing with this square is to reflect the conversations and the many meetings that have gone on between the market traders and the town council, to do something with the outside market, to make it more appropriate, to make it at the right scale, to make it flexible. And so what we hope to do as we work up these schemes is to reflect all that in our aspirations for this as an event space. Next, please. We obviously take how people get here and how people get around here very seriously. And if Beata Kubitz was here, as she was last night, she would tell you about the opportunities in bringing cycle tourism and sustainable tourism to this town, building on that, making sure that we have better access from the station into the town centre, making sure that our pavements and our drop places are accessible for people with pushchairs, with wheelchairs, with mobility scooters, whatever, making sure that people know when they come into our town how they can cycle around our hills, along our canal, or into the various places that are of real interest around Todmorden, how people can get up onto the hills and feel the benefit of that. There's some serious money going into what is called in those list of projects active travel, to make sure that we take seriously the needs of bringing carbon down in our town, helping our residents and our visitors be healthier, but at the same time do it in a joyful and easily accessible way. Next, please. I'm going to invite Julie now to give us a few words about the community hub at the college.
Thank you very much, Pam. Thank you. Yeah, I want to take you back very rapidly to 2016, when I think many people who are on this Zoom meeting now will remember the announcement from Calderdale Council that they were going to close down the Todd College building. And you'll equally remember the community's response to that, which was an emphatic no, we don't think so. We want to keep the college building, and we want it to be used for a whole variety of environmental and community activities. What followed was 5 years of campaigning, planning, business planning, hard work, negotiation with the council, floods, COVID, more COVID, and eventually on the 31st of March this year, the council handed over the keys to the building to Todmorden Learning Centre and Community Hub, which is a membership organisation that anybody in the area can become a member of. And we have a 125-year lease on the building, on the agreement that we make it a sustainable community anchor organisation for the social, environmental and economic benefit of the Todmorden community. We've been running the building for 8 months now. Whilst we put in a bid slightly before we actually got the handover to the, into the first round of bidding for the town deal money. We've come back again with a revised bid because we've now got a better picture of exactly what's needed. But I can tell you that every evening of the week and throughout the days and on Saturdays too, the college has become a hive of activity. The community has responded. So we went from having an empty COVID closed down building in April to one where now we have a whole range of arts and leisure classes going on. We've got the wonderful Todmakery where you can come and repair and learn repair skills in from almost anything you have that might go wrong. We are very proud to provide space to Todmorden's food bank. As we speak, demolitions going on the old hall to restore it to its original 400-person capacity. We have meeting rooms and training rooms that are full most days of the week, and a whole number of organisations who are renting office space with us. The speed at which we've moved from an empty building to a full one, and the wonderful mix of things that we've got going on in it has just been unbelievable. However, it's a slightly tired building. It's a slightly neglected building. And in the spirit of wanting to make it a beacon of sustainability and a real showcase for the way in which older buildings can be brought up to modern carbon zero standards. The one thing we really want to do is to look at the way it's heated, the way it's lit, the way it's insulated, the way it's ventilated, and to be able to really improve the infrastructure of the building to make it a beacon of sustainability for the 21st century, to go on and have another 60, 70 or preferably 125-year lease of life serving the community. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you so much, Julie. Fantastic. Next slide, please. The Hippodrome, again, you're going to have to imagine I'm Steve from the Hippodrome. He spoke last night, but isn't able to be with us. Basically, the funding in this part of the Town Improvement Plan is to make the Hippodrome accessible to everybody, every single bit of it, to make sure that there are more opportunities for more things to go on and mixed use at the same time, to make sure that the young people, who there's a huge waiting list for young people to get involved in this, have more opportunities to get more involved, you know, and to really put this, I think, the largest community-owned theatre, you know, really on the regional map. It's fantastic. The aspirations that they have for as we drive into town from Halifax along that road, and the changes they have in their minds about what might happen to that, the front of that building, is just inspiring. So watch this space for that. Next, please. Just going to say a couple of things here, and then it's we're going to go over to a short video which Jim is going to present. What we've got in the Centreville Park is an absolutely amazing asset, but it is of many parts, you know, from the bandstand to the recreational uses and the memorial garden. All these elements are within part of the bid for Centreville Park. And the bowling club and the tennis club and the multi-use sports pitch at that end of the park is something that all those engaged with want to see improved. And we want to help them do that by coming together and offering something even better for residents and visitors alike. Many different elements in Centreville Park, including Field and Hall, and bringing that up to scratch in terms of environmental standards. But let's hear from Jim. Next slide, please.
This park is one of the town's greatest assets, I think. It's very well loved, it's very well used. Its location and environment are second to none. The town deal prospectus recognise the importance of green spaces like this to people's recreation and well-being, especially in the COVID-19 era. That's why in our town investment plan, we have a project which proposes to improve the park and its facilities and which we very much hope can be taken forward into the final plans.
Thanks, Jim. Next slide, please. I'm going to ask Councillor Susan Press to speak to this, the investment within the town hall. Is Susan there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Susan.
I can't see anything. Can people see me? I don't seem to be
Yes,
able to.
we can hear you. We can hear you, Susan.
Oh, you can't see me though.
We can see you as well, yeah.
Oh, how bizarre. Right, I can't see anyone. Which is a bit unnerving. Right, okay. Well, as some of you will know, I'm the Calderdale, one of the 3 Calderdale ward councillors for Todmorden, but the reason I'm here tonight and the reason I was there yesterday is because for the past 7 years, I have chaired the Town Hall Working Group, which comprises Calderdale councillors, representative from the Town Council, representatives from the local business community. It's kind of like a mirror. Well, I don't need to get into all that, but it's kind of a mirror image of what the Town Deal Board became. But anyway, we've been slogging away for many, many years. Certainly long before I became a councillor in 2014, there were plans to make the most of a town hall, to refurbish it, to bring it up to bring it up to scratch. And originally a bid was put in, I think over 10 years ago now, for some of the plans, which have now been put forward as part of the Town Deal Board plan. And there was a bid that was put into the Heritage Lottery Fund a few years ago, which was unsuccessful. So that was for £1 million. So the Calderdale decided we would press ahead with our plans to refurbish the ballroom. And some of you there tonight or here tonight may have had the chance to come to our open day, which was last Saturday. Sorry, it was last Sunday, and over 200 people came along to look at the beautiful new ballroom. It's been redecorated in its original blue and white colours. We've uncovered the original tiles. But we've most importantly, perhaps, we've installed a brand new acoustic system. So all those functions you've been to where you couldn't hear what anyone was saying, the concerts that didn't sound quite right, all that has changed. And that was paid for by Calderdale Council. We invested £121,000 into the ballroom, but we estimated we needed at least another £1 million to actually do all we want to do. But before we got this money, or before we got the offer of this money, I should say, because we haven't, not quite there yet. Before this happened, we had a long way to go. So basically, we're on the list of projects for the Town Deal Fund, and what this will enable us to do. We do have plans already in place because, as I've just explained, we had these plans in place a long time ago. So the plans we have now are essentially the same that we've had for some time, with some tweaks and so on. But yeah, the plans are ready to go. We're now going to go on to the next stage of the project, working with the board and with officers from Calderdale. Without going into all the detail, because I don't have time, this will include things like there will be a new kitchen, new facilities for the bar, which at the moment now looks out of sync with the rest of the refurbishments. We'll be bringing the council chamber in line with modern notions of accessibility. We'll be opening up the building. That's the main thing that we're going to be doing. We'll be hoping to attract organisations in there. At the moment, it's closed most of the time. So we want to open it up to the community. And that's what we're planning to do. The plans were on show last weekend at the open day. I think if you go on the Calderdale website, they are up there. And if anyone has any further questions about the plans for the town hall, I think as was said at the beginning, if you want to email or put in the chat, and we will get a more detailed answer to you. So yeah, it's all very exciting. The Town Hall Working Group continues to work with the boards and the officers from Calderdale, and we're really looking forward to restoring this wonderful Grade 1 listed building, Julian Crown, to its former glory. It's made a start, but there's lots more to do.
Thanks a million, Susan. Thank you for that. And I'm sorry you can't see the screen, but thank you. That was great explanation. Next, please. All right, Stephen is going to introduce this next video about Riverside in Walsden. Stephen.
Oh, hi. Yes, thank you, Pam. So Riverside Centre, it's an exciting project. It is just the other side of Walsden. When we looked at the town deal prospectus, it didn't say everything had to be done in the town centre, and so we put in a bid for some funding for Riverside. It's a project actually that it's been in the making for 45 years. In fact, the history of it, when the conservation group in Todmorden was formed to save this piece of land. I'm just looking, just said my internet is unstable, so I hope you can still hear me. So yes, so there was a group of conservation group. They tried to save this piece of land from developments that were coming along to them. At that time, Calderdale had just been in existence for about 5 years, and they owned the land. So the conservation group fought quite a few battles to save it from different planning applications, industrial estates, a fun fair, or various things. They wanted to keep it as a green space. So in the 90s, they did manage to persuade Calderdale to buy the land, to sell them the land. And whilst multi-sports was not the first thing on their mind, it became a convenient opportunity for them to do something which would open it up to the wider population. Unfortunately, 3 of the 4 sports that put in to that sort of project, they fell away, and so it was before it was fully developed. So it was left really with just the one user group for the last 20 years. We now have an opportunity to return this site to a wider use, and we think the conservation group would have approved of that. The location lends itself to access to national trails like the Pennine Way, the Pennine Bridle Way, local trails such as the Mary Townley Loop and the Calderdale Way. The Route 66, the cycle route, runs along the canal beside the centre, and obviously we've got the Rochdale Road on the frontage. It also lends itself to access to water sports because the canal is right on our doorstep. Camping, walking, all those things that we can talk about in the visitor economy are all things that could come to this area. Community open space events are obviously, we have had things like the dog show and running festivals there already. We have in the plans a forest school, which we have some woodland at the top of the lands to develop that. And we're talking with the Environment Agency and Huddersfield University on a collaboration project about the land to the south of us, which could be a nice wetlands project. So yeah, so we're hoping to create an environment where people like the Scouts can come. We already have schools coming there, but one of the most inspiring things I think that we're hoping to do is one of the projects that Pam talked about earlier that needs to merge, and that's the pretty inspiring All Ability Cycling charity, Empowered People. I'm going to show you a little very short video now. It gives you some of the current users, what they have to say.
Our school is in a very urban environment, so for the children to be surrounded by the trees and the water and the hills, that's just an ideal setting for them to come kayaking.
It's a brilliant location for a forest school. It's just wild, so the children can explore, they can choose their own boundaries, they can build dens just out of using the natural materials that are in the woods here. You get these children outside and they learn so much more.
Our people has been going there for 8.5 years, and it enables people who've got a disability to discover the benefits of accessible cycling. If we could be based at Riverside, the possibilities are endless for us, and to have that ability to create a centre of excellence which will enable somebody to come and enjoy the benefit of inclusive cycling and to let them grow and expand as they develop.
Thank you. And thank you, Stephen. Can we have the next slide, please? So we've given you a flavour. We could only give you a flavour. There, you know, we could spend all night talking about these things. Can I just stress that these are the projects, a lot of them driven by local people, but we haven't worked up the business plans for any of them yet. And that is what we will do if we get the thumbs up from the government in the next 6 weeks, we hope. But from our point of view, from the board's point of view, this is just the beginning. This is a great indication of a belief in Todmorden. But there are the possibilities of us to pull even more funding that supports that vision and supports some of those projects that aren't in that vision. 2 areas that we're really interested in is to make sure that we've got the right level of investment in digital infrastructure to deliver for local jobs, for the young people who will find their home and their employment in this area. Another area we're really keen on is to make sure that community energy plays its part. And we're in conversations, very early days, with the combined authorities who have indicated that there is funding for those sorts of energy projects. And we would be really interested. And perhaps the sustainability panel that others will talk about later could take that forward. There's also the need for us, as I mentioned, to remember that there are some schemes that didn't get in to this plan. And for those that we're hoping to talk to funders, the Leeds City region and others to create an investment panel for advice on where to get funding and how best to put bids together. So we can't do that immediately. We've not even kicked off with this £17.5 million plan. But once we have the thumbs up and once we have the people in place to make sure that that can be delivered, we will most certainly be looking to these other sources of income. Not least of which is the government's so-called levelling up fund, shared prosperity fund, and increased interest in sustainable transport. These things fit in extremely well with our plan. And as I said, it's the beginning of our investment ambitions for the town, not the end. Next, please. Now I'm going to hand over to Stephen, who's going to talk about a survey that we have initiated, give you some results from that, and then talk about some of the other areas that we want to expand on. Stephen.
So yes, thanks again, Pam. I'm back. So the visitor economy, it's in our vision. At the top of the program here tonight, you saw our vision. Visitor economy was mentioned in that as something that we really need to be looking at. Because we believe it's a really strong part of the local economy, which has been underdeveloped over a number of years. Pre-COVID, the town pre the town deal board, in fact, many of the town's organisations came together in, I think, January 2019 at an event called Destination Todd, which was organised by UCVR, the TIC, and Coverdale Tourism. And the idea behind that was that we wanted to see if we could agree amongst all of the people of the town on a sort of a unique identity that everyone could use to promote the town in their own way, but consistently. And that's where you've probably seen some of the logos now, but that's where the More in Todmorden identity was born. The business network took that up and we're running with it. Their members were using it. But of course, as we all know, things came to a bit of a standstill with lockdown, and particularly business networking stopped. But the identity was adopted by the town deal board and was used in the bid that we put into government at the beginning. And we think that added to our image of a cohesive and collaborative town worthy of investment. You'll see, hopefully right at the very end, as we're winding up after the questions, there'll be a short video that was put together to celebrate that More in Todmorden campaign. So you can see there, there's a question, what is a visitor? I'm not going to read that to you. Basically what it says is they're not just tourists. There are all types of visitors you can attract to your town. They could be coming on business courses, conferences. They could be coming for education. So people like the college could be involved in the visitor economy in a big way. People like the Hippodrome with small conferences could be involved as well. We've got to look at all of those things as a holistic sort of picture of the visitor economy. Next slide, please. Been waiting all night to say that. So we have, as a sort of, with all of that in mind, we commissioned a twofold visitor survey, and the first one was capturing details of current visitors to the town, and potential visitors was the other part of that. So wanted to capture their perceptions of the town. So within sort of a 3-hour drive, get it right, a radius, we had a survey done to see if people knew what they knew about the town. But in the first instance, we used the 2005 Tourism Action Group's survey of the Upper Valley, really, to look at what were the figures then for why people came and how often they came and so on. So just very basic figures here. The report that we're getting back from the survey we've just done is not actually due till next week, but I've managed to grab a few figures from them to try and do a comparison. So here you've got family and friends visiting. Way back in 2005, it was like 20%. It looks like it's higher now. There's potentially the reason for that is that they're saying that Facebook has a lot of influence over friends and family who can see pictures of the place where people live and say, "Oh, I want to go and visit you." So we've got to do more research and look into that, but that seems to be an indication. People coming for leisure, holidays, relaxing sort of things was quite high in 2005. Here it looks as though it's a little bit lower. It might have been, there'll be some elements of the time of the year perhaps and whatever. 75% were repeat visitors in 2005. The figures on the right hand side, they're not quite as I would like them. So it's 55% are repeat visitors and in the last year, and 17% in the last 2 or more years. Interestingly enough, the 55% said that the average amount of visits they've made to the town is 10, which sort of suggests, if we look at the next set of figures, 90% of people came from Lancashire and Yorkshire in the survey in 2005, so they were mainly day visitors. And I think the number of repeat visitors that we're getting at the moment, if it's an average of 10 times a year, then it suggests that they're not coming that far. It's probably very similar. So next slide, please. So when it came to the perception survey, people were asked what they know and what they heard about Todmorden, and a significant amount of people said they never heard of us. And a high percentage said they had heard, but they've never visited. And again, about a third of the people interviewed, I suppose, said that they'd seen no references to Todmorden. Next slide, please. But interestingly enough, there you go, when people were given a description of what the town has to offer, which we pulled from tourism website and various other websites, they said, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. Actually, I might likely visit you." It's quite a significant number of people said that. A significant number of people said they would quite likely visit, and then 14% they would very likely visit. So without jumping to too many conclusions, because we haven't had the full report yet, it does look as though we're just not getting the message out there. We're not boasting about the town. We're not telling people what there is here to come and see. And so it's an early indication, I think, for us that there's some encouraging information there for us to use to get on and do a better job of promoting the town. But it isn't just one particular group that has to do that. I think we all need to be doing that collectively, and we'll come to a strategy on how that will happen and spread that around the town when the time comes. What the survey doesn't cover is the potential for companies and educational groups and festivals organisers and things like that to come here, which we all know is always going to be a potential, but that needs to be looked at in terms of things like the Hippodrome and the colleges, I said earlier. So the visitor economy for us, main key points, it's not just tourism. It's a lot more. It's significant in terms of the amount of money it could bring in and jobs it could bring to the town. We've got organisations, we've got skills, we've got the knowledge in the town to build our visitor economy in a sustainable way. And because it's a range of things, it's not just one area of visitors that would come. we have to say that we can be a little bit picky about how we design a strategy. So we don't have to be driven by a destination marketing. We can actually destination manage. In summary, it's in the vision, it's in there rightly so, and with this level of potential, I think we're on to a good thing. Let's be done on that one. But I think I'm on next as well, aren't I? Is that right? Yes. I'm back again. I chair the, as Pam mentioned earlier, I chair the communications group, which I'm quite pleased to do because it's got a good skills base in it, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we've done. But obviously, community engagement is something that fell into our lap at the early stage, and the two things do overlap quite a lot. So we're going to combine them both and talk about them both at the same time if I can. So what have we done? Well, this is our fourth community forum this year. We have connected with around 230 people on a mailing list. We have 860 followers on Twitter. We have 560 on Facebook, and we have 452 so far on Instagram. Facebook and Instagram were only set up this year. Twitter was going a little bit longer. The data collected from the forum in January gave us the realization that we'd not really reached the under 25s, hence the Instagram account coming up. We commissioned and we adopted, on the back of that, we commissioned and we adopted a youth strategy on youth engagement, and we think we're the only town, possibly in the town deal group, but certainly regionally, that's doing that. What could we do better? Well, we're at a point where hopefully some of the deadlines and demands on our time will be less. So we're going to be reviewing at the next board meeting, in fact, our community engagement strategy. So what we want to try and look at and do, if possible, is be a little bit more innovative and get away from just the general surveys and the open days that generally happen. And we're going to try to look at some of the best practice that's out there now in terms of using citizens panels or citizens assemblies, where participants are a bit more randomly selected, but across the representative of the demographics in the town. And they would look at particular issues for us that we want community guidance on. And that's certainly something we're going to be looking at. In terms of communications, we are, as I said earlier, we're lucky to have a strong team that understands the need for regular and relevant communications. It's a team which has some expertise in this field, so we've had fairly consistent information put out there on various channels, as I mentioned before. We also have had some significant success with the local headline paper, which I think we saw at the beginning. That's very pleasing to us, and maybe not so pleasing for other towns in the valley, but we're certainly hitting the headlines. In this case, what can we do better? Well, we can all do much better, but actually to be able to do that, we do need your help, and we're going to ask for your help. There's always going to be diverse groups within any community that we struggle to reach, but we're lucky that we have this world of social media now, and a lot of those groups have got groups of their own which we can connect into. I'm just going to ask Eileen Kelly to say a few words, because she's been helping and running most of our social media for us, and she knows a lot more about how you can help us. It's certainly on social media to get the message out and reach those diverse groups. Can we let Eileen?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So I set up the Town Deals social media accounts in January this year, and I've been managing them since that time. Everyone can help us by, if you're on those platforms, could you like our Facebook page if you haven't done already, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter if you're on those platforms. In order to reach a wider audience, we regularly share posts in the big groups, so Tod Chat and That, Walsden Chat and That, This is Todmorden, Todmorden Together, and Events Todmorden. but many of you will be in other groups. So you might be in a parent and toddler group, and men in sheds group, any type of group where there are other local people. And it would be really helpful if you could share our posts into those groups, or perhaps share them yourselves on your profile, as you'll have friends who live locally. So anything that you can do to help us in that respect would be really appreciated. Thank you, Stephen.
No, thanks, Eileen. So what we will do is we're going to continue to engage and find more ways to be consistent in that as the resources permit. I'm just going to show you one sort of example of our efforts to engage, and this is with the young, the under 25s. They formed the Collective, which is an organisation now which I'm going to ask, I think Shannon's in the house with us. Shannon, who is on the left in that picture, wrote the strategy for us. She's going to explain a little bit more about that, and that will be followed by a short video about showing them in action, actually. So we've sponsored that, and we've had some support from the Town Council for that as well, who will be engaging with them as well over the next few years. Shannon.
Thanks very much, Stephen. It's lovely to be here. Yes, I am in the photo. I just realised how much shorter I am than Billy and Lewis, actually, which is I never feel that short, but apparently so. But yeah, no, it's lovely to be here. Yeah, so we on the back of the youth engagement strategy, which we submitted with the original kind of funding application back in January, the town board made some seed funding available to a very small team of local people under the age of 25. So there's Billy and Lewis there. And we're also working with Daisy, who is from outside of Todmorden, but from the city of Leeds, who supported us with our skate park launch. And what we've been doing is trying to build engagement with people under the age of 25 in the town of Todmorden, and kind of starting that long-term process to bring them into all these great projects that are going to be happening, and trying to make sure that it's under 25s who lead that communication. I'm from Todmorden myself, so is Billy and so is Lewis. So it's a really exciting project. We kind of had our first launch event at the skate park, and we're looking to kind of have a few other things lined up in the next few months. We've outlined kind of, I guess, our vision for the city. I'll pop in our Facebook link. We've also got Instagram and things like that, so I'll make sure that that's in the chat. But essentially, kind of our 3 goals for the city came out of the youth engagement strategy, which did in January, and the consultation that we ran then. So we're kind of working towards 3 key areas within supporting the town board and all these projects, and making sure under 25s get a really good fair stake in what's happening. So we're going to be looking to support more paid work and training for under 25s in the area. More events and activities for under 25s. There's been a massive reduction in youth services and youth support locally. So really looking to support that and do more to peer-to-peer stuff as well. And then the final thing that we're going to be looking to do is bring in more venues and spaces for under 25s in Todmorden that feel owned by and belong to us. So they're kind of our 3 key areas that we're going to be working on, and just a huge thank you for the town board in the support so far. It's been fantastic to do the skate park. I'm really excited for more. So yeah, thank you everyone. Oh, I did have a final thing. If anyone is interested in getting involved in like helping us reach out to under 25s across the town, please get in touch. We are from the area, but we don't know everyone, and we want to do this as collaboratively as possible and reach everyone under the age of 25. So please get in touch if you work with young people, if you have young people in your family, or if you just have ideas and are excited by it. Yeah, I'll also pop our email into the chat, or you can direct messages on social media. So please get in touch. We can only do this together. So thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yes, thank you very much, Shannon. Just going to show a short video of the collective in action. Next.
The kind of ambition is within, this next stage of how our town's going to develop, making sure that under 25s have a position in that and that we're all moving forward together.
been a brilliant opportunity for us to go out and to meet our audience and to talk to our demographic.
Whether they're creatives, musicians, whether they just want to get involved, whether they just want to see a bit of change in the town.
If you've got some spare time, take the time out and go and have a word with them.
It's very homegrown, I'll say that, and it's what Todmorden needs at the moment. So yeah, watch out for the collective.
Thanks, Stephen. Now back to Rona.
Lovely, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody, for sharing all the information about the hard work that's been undertaken over the last 9-10 months. If you could move on to the next slide. Pam and Susan have already mentioned that the funding isn't in place yet. So just wanted to share this because there's a lot of work happened. There's a lot more work that needs to be undertaken before the funding and the delivery actually starts. As Pam said, the revised bid was submitted to government a few weeks ago. The intention is, the timing is that the response to that, approval will be in the next 6 weeks. So fingers crossed this side of Christmas. And then there's some more detailed work that needs to be done on the projects that would be approved within that revised bid. So the assessment work needs to be undertaken, the detailed business case development, which is a significant amount of work, all needs to be undertaken. And then the line which is just second from the bottom there, it's expected that funding approval will happen in the second half of 2022. So we put July there. Timings do change. I know I've been waiting on a funding approval since July this year, which hasn't come through, but the indication is that that will be when funding approval will happen, and then the actual delivery will start. So it's just to make sure everybody understands a lot more work needs to happen. The spades won't be in the ground for a good few months yet, but there's a huge amount of work that is going to be going on in the background. And just to touch on in terms of expectations, again, everybody has described the process that's been followed, and that not all projects that were put forward were able to be funded. And there is no funding programme that is going to meet the needs of every community. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have done research on this that's been published, and to work with communities across Yorkshire, the UK and Europe on how they can deliver regeneration programmes, get projects off the ground that are really important to them. And generally speaking, particularly government funded programmes, they're meeting the government's objectives that it's set out. And there is, it will never deliver everything that a community wants. So again, there are projects that have not been able to be taken forward through the town investment plan. But as Pam said, the intention is, with support from the investment panel, to be able to understand what funding opportunities there are that will be coming forward. And there always are funding opportunities and opportunities to be able to move projects forward. So Todmorden is in a very strong place, having gone through a lot of the thinking processes, having benefited from regeneration programmes and learned the lessons from those as to how it can pull resources in. So at the moment, there's a £17.5 million, as Pam said, from the town deal, plus £10 million that's been identified in terms of match funding so far. But there will be other opportunities that will come along. And we mentioned yesterday, and Pam said, things like the Shared Prosperity Fund. This summer there was launched the Community Ownership Fund from the government. There's the Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Fund, the £2 billion national programme that was launched last year, which will fit into the work on active travel. There are funding streams that will be coming forward next year on supporting community businesses. So having gone through all of this process means that other projects have the opportunity potentially to be supported as well as the ones that you've heard about. But funding programmes, and particularly government funding programmes, never go on as long as everybody would like them to do, to be able to deliver everything. So the plan that has been put together will be looking to have everything delivered by 2025, but there will be other things, I have absolutely no doubt, that will be able to continue from this because of all of the work and the capacity that's been built in developing the plan and the support from people. So I'm going to finish there. That's the sort of end of the formalized presentation. We did say we would have a question and answer session. We have got some questions already in the chat, and we did say that we would take those in order. So if I could just go up to the first one, which was a question from, just bear with me, from Pauline, which was about Riverside and whether Riverside has been assessed for suitability for water-based activities. And Stephen, are you able to answer that, or Pam, do you want to take that?
No, Stephen's in a better position.
Okay.
I can say a little bit. When you say water-based activities, it's quite a wide range of things. In terms of the current use, which at the moment is only kayaking, the water, obviously we don't own the canal. The Canal and Rivers Trust do that, and the arrangement for, as I understand it, the arrangement for the schools and the scouts who are actually, have been using the site as well this year, they have their own arrangements with the water authority for using the canal. So we don't actually have any control over the canal. We just give them access, to the canal site. I hope that answers the question. But if there's more questions, obviously we'll try and answer them all on the website and give more detail about the project. But it is, as Pam said, it's early stages yet. A lot of the business planning has got to be done. So a lot of these permissions and things like that need to be in place. It's aspirational stuff we're talking about. They will come to be as part of the business plan.
Okay, thanks very much, Stephen. There were 3 questions following this, or comments, which were on football and youth football. So if I take those together, there was one from Suzanne, which was shame about losing Todd Sports Centre football, though. Todd football is poorly served. And Dee's iPhone, apologies, I can't see your name. I think it might be Deb. Is there anything we can do to support youth football? We have so many players, but inadequate training space and a pitch. And Suzanne had another comment, which was Bellholme was meant to be for local organisations, but the advert shows a school from Rochdale. Good to share facilities, but the football is a big issue, especially with no decent sized or weather pitch. I feel for those associated with Todd Borough and the Junior Football Club. Tried their best to play regular football in the East Lancs League, but the training and pitch availability is dire. Not helped now with Walsden Rec being dug up for a season for the river work. So I didn't know if, Stephen, if there was anything you wanted to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. Our original plan, I think the original bid we put into to the town deal board actually included a 3G all-weather pitch. We commissioned a consultant in this area to have a look at it and see what the feasibility was. There's certainly some evidence of the catchment area, which would actually include East Lancs as well. But the results that came back really suggested to us that it's a very high risk project. Most of the 3G pitches in the country are in schools and academies and not in private or even sort of community ownership. The main reason is that the funding for these things, which we would only be able to provide, the town deal would only be able to provide a match fund for, relies on the football Premier League foundation, and in conversations with them and the consultant, it appeared that they see themselves as funders of last resort. So it was risky to bid for that money for that project for that reason. But there's all sorts of stuff that was coming in as well about some places are taking out 3G pitches, the way they're designed and built. There's some worries about carcinogenic sort of stuff from the rubber crumb that they use on the surface. The cost of maintaining them is actually more than a football pitch, a grass football pitch. So in consultation with grass football pitch experts, we thought we would maintain that option there to have better and more robust grass pitches. The local, as far as I can see, the local adult football team was pretty much down to one team struggling to pull something together. So it wasn't sustainable for them to stay with us and pay us whatever it was, £600 a year, when the cost of cutting the grass was over £1,000 a year. So the economics of that, it's very difficult we're not in a position to subsidise football in the same way that perhaps the local authority are with economies of scale when it comes to pitch maintenance. The option's still there, but the junior team, we promised we'd open up the grounds to them. They came. This year they've decided not to stay with us based on cost, and there's not much we can do about that. But in the grand scale of things, the site was never envisaged as just a single sports site. It was envisaged as a multi-sport site, and that's why we're looking to develop it and make it open to far more people in the community than it would do if it was just stay a football ground. But we're not closing that option down.
Thanks very much, Stephen. The next question from another Stephen is around the amount of funding and a question about that. What I'm curious about is that of the 100 town areas that bid for up to £25 million or more, the average award was 23 million. Todmorden was 94th out of 100 towns in the amount of core funding awarded, and around 30 towns received the full amount that they bid for. Why did we lose so much core investment, and what has the Town Deal Board learned so far so we present the highest quality business cases? Pam, do you want to take that one?
Well, I can have a stab about that, although, I can't speak on behalf of those people who scrutinised in the ministries and ended up with offering us 17.5 million. What I would say is that the headline 17.5 may not be as high as other places, but the per capita spend is extraordinary. For a town as small as ours, we've got to think that Brighouse, for example, got more money, but then it's a much bigger town and they have, per head of population, less spend. So we don't really know why we ended up with 17.5. We've had no complaints against the bids that the projects that we actually put in. And you'd have to speak to perhaps the MP or somebody else to understand why we've ended up with that. But what we have ended up with is still a very significant amount, and we will sweat that to get the very best for Todmorden. What we've learned, we're learning all the time. We're learning about the need for more capacity to make these things happen. We're learning about the need to be able to pull in the greatest skills and to listen to the voices of Todmorden in helping us achieve this as a town board. There's all sorts of things that we understand, and we understand very clearly, working with the accountable body, which is Calderdale, that there are a set of criteria against which the government judges, is this successful? Is it value for money? Are we making a strong enough case? And we have procedures in place to making sure that we not only deliver what our aspirations are in the vision, but that we get it over the line because we know what the government expects of us. So we're learning a lot, and we're cranking up in terms of our proficiency around developing business plans. We will be pulling in additional resource to make that happen. There is a small amount of money in this entire process to support groups as they develop their business plans, to look at feasibility studies for those things that continue to be over the line. And so all the time we're trying to make the best use of the money to get the very best advice we can to make sure that we have got a long-term legacy for the town.
Great, thanks very much, Pam. There's a few things on chat that Shannon and Eileen have put up, just around the different communication ways to engage with the collective and also with the Todmorden Town Deal social media. So please do have a look at those, and please do use them, get in touch. And there's also been some offers on there from the high school of connecting into the work that you're doing, Shannon, with the collective. So that's great. The next question or comment that we have was from Richard Storer, which was about the use of Riverside. So the Scouts have been using Riverside for kayaking and canoeing. We have use of the canal arrangement with Canal and Rivers Trust, and hope to introduce a container there and use the facilities. So that's a response to the first question around use of the water there. So that's great. So thank you very much. The next question from Jeff, which was, you mentioned improving access from the rail station to the town centre. do you know how you'll achieve this?
No, not yet. Jeff, not the foggiest idea yet. Well, you can stand at the front and speculate, but obviously what we're doing is putting enough money in there to be able to make the right sorts of improvements so that people, when they get out, don't face a brick wall. They know where they're going. They have easier access to the town centre and all the things that anybody who would aspire to get more people on train into the middle of Todmorden would expect us to be looking at. We will be dealing with consultants. We will be taking expert advice on that. And we will also do our very best to make sure that we absolutely are at one with the investment programme that Network Rail is proposing in terms of better facilities, better access, get a lift in there and whatever else it might be. So the next 10 months will be into the detail of what we actually mean by having a more sustainable, active travel model for our town. And it's obvious that with the train station and the fantastic access we have and other people have to us, that is going to be really important. But for now, Jeff, no, we haven't got any detailed plans.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Pam. The next question is probably best answered by Julie, if Julie's here, regarding the college. There appears to be, it's from Gareth, there appears to be a focus on arts and community uses, which is great. However, are there any plans to also run courses focusing on practical job skills, such as green technology, computer programming, languages, etc.?
Yeah, I'm very happy to respond to that. Hi, Gareth. I only had, I promised not to talk for more than a minute in the earlier bit, and I probably well overran that. So one thing I didn't mention was the courses that we are in fact already running in skills for the future green economy. We were lucky to, well, not lucky, we were fortunate to secure funding from the National Lottery Climate Action Fund for a development project to develop what we've called the Climate Challenge College. And we already have our first cohort of students on a 6-month full-time course working on a range of different skills, a taster of them, and looking at where they might create and engage in jobs in the future economy, in environmentally friendly agriculture, in natural building and retrofitting technologies, in micro generation and renewable energy system installation and maintenance, in repair and reuse. So yeah, we're definitely up for all those things. The environmental dimension has always been a core element of the work that we plan to do with the college. So it's still there at the very heart of what we're doing. What we're really pleased to be able to do is to bring that together with things that are important and needed by the local community in terms of facilities and services, because we think that unless we address issues of social justice as well as climate justice, you know, there's very little point. You know, we want the future to be a socially just one as well as an environmentally carbon zero one. So yeah, it's happening.
Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Julie. Now the next question's from Stephen, and I think you in part answered it, Pam, but you might have something to add when you were answering the question about the access from the station. So with regards to the Active Todmorden project, what improvements are planned to access to the town from the canal?
The town from the canal. Well, again, it's the investment is something in the region, give or take a few £100K, of £5.5 million in the active travel. It's a serious programme of improvement. And for us not to have our sightlines on the connection between the canal and the town centre would be a huge missed opportunity, as we are keen on more walkers, more cyclists and the like. So again, it's a degree of detail that maybe some future groups that can support our board, and we'll be looking at the end to make sure, and as Stephen indicated, that more people who want to roll up their sleeves and help us make this a reality are given the opportunity to. So that will be an area where we will be talking to people in Todmorden about how we do that. But absolutely, just as it's important to get from the station, so it's important to get from the canal.
Great, thanks very much, Pam. Now, the next question is about the Hippodrome. Now, Steve's not with us this evening, I don't think. So we'll see whether this is one that anybody here is able to answer. If not, we'll take the question away and get an answer, which will go on the Todmorden Town Deal website. So are there any plans to use the Hippodrome as a cinema on an ongoing basis rather than occasional showings of older films that they put on at present? Seems a shame to have to go out of town to see the latest releases. Hebden Bridge shows that this is sustainable in a small town.
I think Susan has put a response to that, but if we need anything further, we could certainly ask Stephen to give us book and verse.
Okay, fine. Thanks very much. Lovely. So let me just have a look. There's a further comment. Apologies, because I'm scrolling through, because we said we'd take all the questions and comments in order, which is just around the Riverside facilities. So thank you very much, Richard, for adding that. And there was just a question in there about providing a link to the plans for the town hall. So yeah, I'm sure we can do that. Question from Catherine. Stephen, you mentioned that there are many national trails nearby Riverside. Are there any further details yet on how the town deal will link with these and access into the hills around Todd?
The answer is no. The concept or the realization, I suppose, that we were very central to all of these links. You know, it's only sort of really dawned on us in the last 12 months that we've got, you know, with all the ideas that were coming forward about improving the canal path right the way up to our back door, as it were, and the cycling hub that was potentially going to be in Walsden, with the all ability access cycling people possibly coming to the site as well. We started to think about, well, let's look where we are, and you know, what is the potential for this site? And it's clear that when you look at the new South Pennines Park that's just had its launch, which Pam was leading on up until recently, I think. We're bang in the middle of that. Todmorden, Hebden Bridge, Calder Valley is bang in the middle of the South Pennines Park, and the site that we're talking about is pretty much bang in the middle of it as well. And so we looked and said, well, actually, if you walk out the gate here, you can get onto the Calderdale Way, which leads to the Pennine Way. If you cross the road, you've got to the Bridle Way, you're on Mary Townley Loop. It's just dawned on us really that actually everything's coming past our front door and our back door. So what's the potential to access them, and who would access them, and what facilities can you provide for them, has been the nature of our focus over the last 3 or 4 months really. And that's what we've revised our bid to reflect really. So we're hoping to have some accommodation for walkers and cyclists as well now. So yeah, how you access them, it's pretty much you go through the gate and you're there, but probably need to have a conversation. Sorry, who asked the question? I can't see it on my screen.
That was Catherine.
Catherine, so we probably need to have a conversation, a little bit more of a conversation with Catherine about what she thinks that the access, what type of improved access to those routes she's envisaging. But we're just saying that actually they run right past our door, and we've got access to them as it is. I just wanted to add a little bit to, I thank Richard for putting his comments in there, because I think I probably didn't quite answer that question either. Yes, of course, we use the people who are using the site currently. We sort of, that's a bit of a legacy for us. The two schools from Rochdale, they have their own equipment, and they come and they explain what a fantastic facility it is. As Richard sort of indicated there, that if we can come to agreement with them and they come on site, they've got a lot of equipment which they're willing to let other people, other schools and youth use, and that's an arrangement that we could make with the schools in Todmorden who don't have the equipment and haven't been using it. It's not that we're moving to just using the people across the other boundary. We really want the schools in Todmorden to come and use us, but it's a question of facilities and equipment, and the desire for them to come and use it. We're open to all those ideas.
Right, thanks very much, Stephen. And I'm just going to drop down. Absolutely fantastic, because we're getting a lot of answers from people on the Zoom call to some other points, so they're not necessarily appearing in order. But there's a response from Tim to the question about the cinema screening at the Hippodrome. So thank you very much, Tim, which just says, I happen to know that, yes, they are seeking to significantly upgrade the projection equipment and offer a better cinematic experience than at present. So thank you very much for that. There were then just a number of comments and questions, some of which I think are within the scope of the town investment plan. Some may be broader, but all relate to travel, low carbon travel, public transport and active travel. So there was a comment about the trains needing more rooms for bikes, including electric ones. Better service, I assume that's trains from Adele. No cancellations and late trains.
Could I come in here?
Is that you, Susan?
Yeah, because I tried to in the chat. There's been a campaign for a long time for Todd Station to have step-free access. It's been going on for at least 6 or 7 years, probably sure longer. And that money, don't ask me how much it is because I can't remember. The money has been approved by the government, but it's a separate pot of funding. And we are trying to chase what's happening to this project. But that's a separate thing. So the money for that is not going to come from this. It will come from the Department for Transport and Network Rail and stuff. So if you can park that, forgive the pun, that is a separate thing which the council is working on with West Yorkshire Combined Authority. On the electric charging points, again, that's being addressed as part of Calderdale Council's climate emergency strategy. And if anyone's got any questions specifically on that, can they address them to Councillor Scott Patient, who is the cabinet member for climate emergency. So just wanted to clarify, we can't do everything from this. This funding is not taking in everything. So I just wanted to make it clear that those two things are separate.
Great, thank you very much. That's really helpful. And just moving on to the comments just around, fewer cancellations of train services and better bike provision and whatever. And then moving down, apologies, that Catherine has said, Stephen, that would be pleased to talk to you about accessing the National Trails network. So that at the moment was the last comment that we've got. So we're at 8:30. We did say we'd allow until 9, but if everybody's questions have been answered, that's absolutely fine. So unless there are any other comments or questions that come in, if there's something that occurs to you before you leave, do put it in. If we don't, even if we don't get a chance to answer that. Stephen, did you want to say something?
It's just on a comms thing. As we did last time, there were people who thought of questions afterwards, and we're quite happy to receive them. You can email us via the website, and our intention is to do what we did the last time. That's take all the questions, put them on the website, and those that have gone unanswered tonight, which I'm not sure many of them have, but want some clarification, we're happy to do that and put them on the website, and that would probably be by early next week we'd have that done.
Thanks, Stephen. Now we have got one question, and then Pauline's got a hand up. So there's a question from Jeff, which is what happens next to the redesign of the central square and layout of the outdoor market?
Okay.
Pam, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'd be delighted, and I was going to mop up with that. But just to say that, as with all the projects, the business planning starts and the design work starts when we've got a definite thumbs up. We feel very confident about a lot of these, but obviously until the money's in the bank, as it were. So what we will be doing is discussing at the next board how we progress these things. And we will probably think about whether or not a competition would be the right way forward. What we want to do is to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity to be as aspirational and give us something that's just outstanding for this market town in a way that perhaps hasn't been the case in the past. What we also want to do is make sure that as we progress with that, we take on board the comments of the people of Todmorden, their views on a variety of schemes, what they prefer, what they don't prefer, and what we feed into the brief for them. So we're a way off that yet, but we do have some ideas about how we might progress that. What will limit that is the time frame we have to deliver the business plans and get the spades in the ground. That's for discussion at the next board, but there are no decisions yet about how we will progress them and with whom.
Thank you, Pam. Now, Pauline, you did have your hand up, but your hand's gone down. So I didn't know if you had something that you wanted to drop in chat. There isn't anything there. Okay. So in that case, fine, that's fine. So no question coming. So we really just wanted, to thank you all. As you can hear, everybody has been so busy, looking at the funding. There's a huge amount more work to be undertaken over the coming months. So you've heard the ways to get involved. Town Deal Board would love it, and the projects, I'm sure, for more people to get actively involved in those. So if there is something you're interested in, please use all of the contacts that have been put in chat here to get in touch with the Town Deal Board, and also with the different projects that have put contact details down. So yes, it's been lovely to see so many of you here, and another online session, but it's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you all very much for your time, and fingers crossed in a few months' time, then you will actually see projects starting delivery. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.